In 2014, Nigeria was named Africa's biggest economy. However, due to the drastic decline in international oil prices, coupled with corruption and mismanagement of funds by past administrations, Nigeria finds herself today in a quagmire of financial indebtedness. On today's episode of the Osasu Show, we will speak with key stakeholders in the public and private sectors to gather their thoughts on the federal government's economic policies. Stay tuned for this enlightening interviews.
If you don't check corruption, there is no way you can make any meaningful leap in life.
We talk about the stomach infrastructure policy.
Stomach infrastructure is simply about the welfare of the people, coming to the level of the people.
And the mere fact that you are a minister does not make it to be criminal. No court of law has convicted them.
Welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. Our focus today is on Nigeria's economy and her fight against corruption. Our first guest today is His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ekiti State, Peter Ayodele Fayose, who gives us his thoughts and assessment of the government's economic policies. Take a look. Your Excellency, Executive Governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Peter Fayose, welcome to today's program.
Thank you very much.
Nigeria currently finds herself in a quagmire of financial indebtedness. How can we diversify our economy and increase our internally generated revenue?
Again, you want me to be frank with you.
Yes, sir.
Nigerians, leaders with huge ideas, no backup, no sincerity. They say it all, and I call it a make-believe. One, if you look backward over time, we've had so many leaders that played lip service to diversification. Each of them look forward to another election rather than look forward to the future of the country. Today they are heaping the blame on that government, the PDP, for whom or for which they were all part of before they deflected. But let me come to the actual question. Diversification. Power must be in place to diversify. Basic infrastructure must be in place. Let me talk to you about agriculture. Chief Obafemi Awolowo developed the West with agriculture, majorly, cocoa, among others. Today in Nigeria, if you encourage people to go back to the farm, the cost of farming is more, they will never get a profit, so to speak, because if you plant yam, yam is harvested about the same time. For them to sell, it becomes so competitive that they sell at a loss. There is no preservative mechanism to preserve this yam for a later time when it's going to have value, when it's going to be sustained. At such point, a lot of people are discouraged. When you look at cassava, we all talk about starch. At a point, everybody will go into cassava planting, they eventually end up selling at a loss. They are discouraged because government is not doing enough. The system today is so sad that financially we cannot even pay salaries. If I want to diversify, for instance, and the money, for instance, last month, I got 1.3 billion. My wage bill is 2.6, aside security, electricity, water, and basic essential services to the people. Do I use this money for diversification at the expense of the people? No, I can't. So it's an uphill task. It's not impossible, but it's an uphill task. My first counsel to the federal government is that they should stop the noise about corruption. They should face this economy, rebuild this economy, be sincere more about the economy than playing to the gallery. You want to diversify? You are still putting over 100 billion, 150 billion to go and be exploring oil in the north. It shows a leader that is sectional. When we want to diversify, we diversify the country's economy, not an economy that is sectional. So let me leave it like that.
You've talked to us before when you were in the show about stomach infrastructure.
Yes.
But what are some of the policies you put in place and actually infrastructure for job creation and poverty reduction?
Is anybody telling you you can create any job now is lying? I don't want to come before this camera and be telling Nigerians and telling the youths lies. Again, last month I got 1.3 billion, my wage bill is 2.6. This month I got 1.4, my wage bill is 2.6. Do I use, now we have to use 2 months' salary to pay one. So if I now tell the workers in Ekiti that I want to go and use this money to plant cocoa, to plant this, or to put certain things in place and all that, they will rise. That will be our price. We'll have issues. My wings are clipped financially. I can't come here and be saying things. In fact, when you give me my allocation on paper, I simply give it to the NLC, the NLC, the entire body of NLC, the people that have pact, that shares the allocation. I give it to them. I have a standing committee. They share the money because it's beyond me. The only thing I'm trying to do in Ekiti right now is to make sure that I plant trees everywhere, economic trees. In 10 years, it will become of great benefits to the people. I might have left government. I did that when I came first. So let me be realistic with you. It is difficult for me to come before the camera to start telling you I'm creating jobs. No, because I met an economy that takes God to handle for me. And any system that fails to pay its workers is like a failed state. So it's quite challenging. We are between the Red Sea and the lion. We love the youth, we love everybody, but it's challenging.
Have you considered public-private partnerships?
Well, we do our best, but let me tell you, Ekiti is not Lagos. A lot of people will come, they will tell you nice stories, but the moment they test the fact that the level of electricity power you get in your state, when you reconcile it with the manpower, the energy they require, and the cost of diesel, they will chicken out over time. There's no sector that you don't need power generation or power supply. I just want to be down to earth. Let us say somebody builds an hotel in Ekiti. He has maybe 3 or 4 guests, and the money for the guests cannot buy diesel to make them comfortable in the hotel. At some point, the hotel will be shut down. You understand? So it's really bad. It's really bad.
The federal government recently budgeted for the social intervention scheme of giving 5,000 naira a month to unemployed or poor Nigerians. What is your thought on this?
You see, let me just call that their program, stomach infrastructure, like my own. I've been doing it before them. You understand? That is playing to the gallery, 5,000 naira to the youths, to this. Well, they tried, but that's not the solution.
What is the solution?
The solution is to address the economy. You understand? When you address the economy itself will provide an environment for everybody to survive within it.
Do you believe the fight against corruption is equally as important as diversifying the economy?
Every war against corruption is welcomed by me. But the moment it is selective, political, it will be counterproductive. Cases like Aliborton is in the public domain. We can't shy away from it. People believe that if the president wants to fight corruption, he must be total. And any fighting of corruption or fighting any criminality, that you don't obey the rule of law. You are a dictator. With all due respect, President Buhari is a dictator.
But most of the feedback I'm getting, due to the massive amount that was siphoned out of this country, that actually hit the economy hard and put us where we are right now.
Can I help you? When we want to talk, I'm careful to mention names. But I want to tell you that there was in Nigeria since 1960. There were leaders of this country since 1960. And the leaders of this country since 1960 has been northerners substantially. How many has Buhari called to book? We remember the 12.5 billion windfall during the era of a Nigerian president. $12.5 billion, $12.5 billion in the era of a president from the north in this country. Nothing happened. I don't want to begin to mention names. You understand? In Yoruba land, they said, why are you walking like this? He said, if you look at the way my leg is from the ground, you know that I cannot walk better. Buhari has not bought new arms since he became president. So which ammunition is he using to fight Boko Haram now?
So are you saying there is no Dasuki arms?
I don't want to talk about that because I am not the court. I don't want to talk about that because when you take people to court, you judge them on the pages of newspapers. When court grants bail, you disobey the courts. You still want to try people in the same court. You want to intimidate the judges. You want to equally harass people. That's not fighting corruption. If a man is guilty, he will accept his guilt. Somebody was caught in a bombing, alleged bombing, terrorism issue. He was not put in chains when he was being brought to court because the spokesman of PDP is a man of target. He's in arms. It's petty. You see, let me tell you one thing today. What goes round comes round. It's a matter of time. I'm the longest serving Nigerian governor. I have served in Obasanjo's administration. I told everybody clearly, where did Obasanjo, when he left prison, did he declare his assets? The library now today, where did the money come from? His house that he built in Abeokuta, where did the money come from? Even Buhari himself, he declared cattle heads and mud houses. He said he doesn't have money. Where did he get the money? From which accounts did the money for the campaign come from? We are fooling ourselves. Because he's in power today to say he's the one prosecuting. Somebody else might be there tomorrow. It's unfortunate that men of honor of yesterday are quiet today.
You were accused of having a property in Dubai, and we just want to know, what is your response?
Let me tell you, if I have a house in Dubai, that should not be a problem. Should it be anybody's headache? If you're not satisfied, you can set up an investigation and investigate me. Unfortunately, I don't have one. If I have, I will tell you what I have. I'm not among men I'm not a coward. Cowards die many times before they are dead. If I have a house anywhere, I would declare it. You understand? Let it be clear that a governor in office, a leader in office, is not as if you cannot own a property. How would you tell me I cannot own a property? Are you telling me I'm not entitled to legitimate earnings? But unfortunately, I don't have a house in UAE. If I have, I will declare it. It's my property if I have. You see, that's what I said to you. Playing to the gallery, they are operating as if they are still in opposition because they don't have clue to this economy. In my prediction, I said it that Major General Buhari does not have clue. He's still in an analog stage. He does not have clue about the economy of Nigeria. If you tell me I cannot grow more than my teacher, anybody, I'm saying it expressly, the president does not understand economy. He doesn't. If you understand the economy, you can do everything simultaneously without rocking the whole boat of your country. Everywhere there is tension. Investors, you go out of a country, you go and tell the whole world that your country is corrupt. You destroy all your own people. Who will come and do business with them? That's not how to operate. And like I was telling you, during the third term agenda, that money was given to senators and House of Reps. They were given in my state. That money, where did it come from? It's good for Obasanjo to come to the television every day and celebrate himself, or go to the prostrating villa. Let me tell you expressly, the truth will find all of us out at some point. And they say that he's going to go after me. I'm ready.
Are you scared?
No, for God's sake. I am a veteran.
This is a man you call a tyrant, a dictator.
Can I tell you again? Can I tell you again? When you read the book of Hebrews chapter 13 verse 6, it's very clear that because we have God, we fear not what men will do to us. Everybody cannot be in the same political party. You can't silence everybody. I'm entitled to my view. Politics, democracy, majority will have their way, minority will have their say. This is my say. I fear no foe.
Welcome back to the Osasu Show. If you're just joining us, our focus today is on the economy. Before we went on break, we spoke with His Excellency Governor Ayodele Peter Fayose, who gave us his assessment of the government's fight against corruption and its correlation with economic issues. Now we'll hear from financial expert and economist Mr. Jide Akintunde, who is the managing editor of Financial Nigeria magazine. Mr. Jide Akintunde, managing editor of Financial Nigeria, thank you for joining us in today's program.
Thank you for having me again.
Former U.S. President John Adams famously said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, and the other is by debt. Should Nigerians be wary about the huge debt the government is about to undertake?
I don't think that if we are going to worry at all about our current debt levels, that is, if we bring the 2016 deficit financing into it, I don't think now is the time for us to worry about it. We probably should have expressed our worries a few years back after we exited the Paris Club debt and we started accumulating both domestic and local and foreign debt for no visible projects. So I would say that based on the current levels of Nigeria sovereign debt, we are still very safe. The percentage, which I think is around 12%, is sustainable. And but what is important is what we do with this debt. The most advanced economies of this world, they are debtor nations. The US itself, which is the largest economy in the world, is also the largest debtor country in the world.
Well,
so
in Nigeria, we don't quite see that correlation, though. We don't see the correlation between our debt and our infrastructure.
Yes, that's what I've said. These are problems that we have brought into 2016. But the truth is this, especially because you have a new government, you cannot visit the lack of transparency and lack of project delivery of the past administrations on the current administration. We have got to watch and see how the first budget of these governments performs.
The federal government is looking at institutions such as the World Bank to borrow from, and we're also looking at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, for policies. Do you think this is a good move?
I think it is right for the government to engage the international policy community. Because if you have a country as big as Nigeria, an economy as big as Nigeria, we are definitely international. And I also think that because of some of the programs that the government has around first funding the deficit, because half of the deficit is going to be funded by international borrowing. So we need to engage with the international players. And then on the other hand, we need the endorsement of our domestic policy by these international institutions so that that endorsement can help translate into lower cost of borrowing for Nigeria, and that in fact we'll be able to generate the funding that we require. And then of course, also look at the foreign direct investment side. So the engagement with the IMF is correct. The disposition of the government not to adopt an IMF program is spot on, because what the IMF program will do is that it will prescribe policies to you and limit your domestic policy choices. So government says no to this. Nevertheless, we will need a favorable IMF Article 4 consultation reports to endorse the Nigeria policy reform so that it can open up the economic space for Nigeria, both internationally and domestically.
Is Nigeria on the brink of a recession, and what can we do to diversify our economy?
Okay, I was actually quite surprised when the CBN Monetary Policy Committee infused the word recession in their reports when they met, I think, in September 2015. I don't think that Nigeria is in any way near a recession. A recession is not the same thing as slower economic growth. A recession means contraction in the economy, which would mean that aggregate production will shrink. In fact, not just once, it has to happen on 2 consecutive times for an economy to be in a recession. That is the technical definition of a recession. So, like I said, the economy grew at 3.3% in 2015. It is projected to even grow higher at 4.5% in 2016. We are not moving in the way of recession. And I don't think that even if oil price hits $20 a barrel, that Nigeria will be in a recession in 2016, because oil constitutes just about 15% of this economy. The driver of growth are the non-oil sectors of services, of agriculture, and so on and so forth.
But that's growth to our GDP. When you talk about funding the budget, oil constitutes about over 70% of the funding of the national budget. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. So you are basically looking at government's balance sheets. The budget of 2016, which is 6.8 trillion naira, I don't think it doesn't amount to 2% of our GDP. It doesn't. So the economic activities actually happens way outside of the influence of government fiscal policy.
What is your appraisal of the government's economic policy?
Okay. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that government has an economic policy, because much of the debates about this administration has been lack of economic policy direction. Now, these are the policy directions that this administration has set. 1, it wants to boost domestic production. 2, it wants to curb importation. And 3, it wants to stabilize the financial system. Now, it is in pursuit of the policy of financial system stability that the CBN has refused to float the naira. Okay? Because if you float the naira, as some people are suggesting, you will have instability at the level of the foreign exchange, and then of course you will have inflation. So the government has steered policy away from these downside risks. So government says we are not devaluing the naira any further. But how do you then survive? But in fact, before I move to that, let me tell you this. Government is going to be the biggest beneficiary of devaluation. Why do I say that? It means that if government devalues the naira, it means it is going to earn more naira from the fewer dollars that it earns. So this policy itself would have benefited the government, but we are talking about higher value now, and not just some monetary manipulation, right? So I agree completely that financial stability is very, very important. You can solve the issue of the currency market and create a wider financial system instability crisis in the system.
Dr. Akintunde, thank you so much for your time. We need to talk about your magazine. Where can people pick up Financial Nigeria from?
In the city of Abuja, for instance, you can find this in Transcorp, you can find this in H-Medics, and a few other outlets, including the international airport here. It is published every month, and the objective is to enlighten the working class about the policy environments in which they operate, and then, of course, the investment opportunities that are there, including also discussing global development issues.
Our key takeaway from both the interviews with Governor Ayodele Peter Fayose and Mr. Jide Akintunde is that the improvement of our economy is not solely the responsibility of the government. As citizens of this great nation, we must create a conducive environment for local businesses and production to thrive by becoming effective gatekeepers and consumers of our own products. When we begin to do this, we'll start to see the positive correlation and effects on our economy. To watch the entire interview with Governor Fayose and Mr. Akintunde respectively, please visit our website www.theosasushow.com. You can also watch past episodes on playnetworknigeria.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Osasu Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll see you same time, same place next week, and until then, take very good care of yourself.